Hey there guys, welcome to ProGrad. My name is Samyak and in this video tutorial I'm going to teach you guys how easy it is to implement a login and registration form which not only has a video background but also a transparent card-like effect popularly known as Glassmorphism. So stick with me till the end of this video and let's begin. Let's take a quick tour of our project. So here is our background video. Here we have our inputs, labels and icons. We got a small effect on the input as well, and there's a link to the registration form. You can find the source code for the complete project in the description box below, but the best way to learn is to code along. So do stick with me till the end of this video, and without any further ado, let's jump right into VS Code and get coding. Let's create our index.html file, register.html, style.css, and a video folder to store the video that we'll use as a background. Now, a small and a very important note on the video side is try to keep the video size as small as possible. This is important because when you host the site on some platform like say Netlify or Heroku and you visit the domain, you'll realize that the background video is choppy or at times it won't even load or take a long time to load. Remember, the heavier your video is, the more time your site will take to load and the more choppy it can get. That's why I have used this video. Originally, it was longer, but I trimmed it so that it consumes less data and the site loads faster. With that said, you can get such short, high-resolution videos from websites like Pexels or Videvo. I have provided the link for those websites down below in the description box, and also I have provided a link for the video that I have used in this project. Do check it out. So, download a video you like and store it in the video folder for further use. Again, if the video size and duration is long, then try trimming or compressing it for a better performance. Great. Now, in our index file, let's just start with a simple boilerplate. And I'll say my title, I want it to be transparent. Video login. Okay, and let's import Bootstrap. So I'm going to go in Bootstrap 5, open this, and let's copy this link tag, paste it right below our title, and alright, we have a Bootstrap imported. And if you'll see in our final result, you'll notice that we have these small little icons. To get that, we'll use something known as font awesome. So let's just type in font awesome CDN since that's where the library exists, and I'll open this. I'll basically copy this link tag and paste it right below our Bootstrap. Great, we have our Bootstrap and font awesome already imported. Now one last thing to import is our style.css. So let's write in link rel style sheet and let's href it to style.css. Okay, great. We got everything imported. Now let's head into our body section and start with it. Okay, now in our body, let's create a section. In this section, I'll create a video container div. And inside this video container div, we will have a video which we will use as a background. So let's add a video tag. I'll give it a source of video slash trim. Okay, great. And HTML by default gives us a few properties on the video tag, like I'm going to use autoplay. I'm going to keep it muted and I'll put it in a loop so it doesn't stop at a place. Great. Let's save and see if we get the video in here. Okay, we got a video, but it's kind of distorted and we want it to cover the whole screen. So let's fix this. Okay, let's add some CSS properties to our video tag and video container. Let's go in our style sheet and first things first, let's say star, and this selects all the HTML elements. Let's give margin and padding of 0. What this will do is it will eliminate any border spaces which at times Chrome leaves by default. So now that this is done, let's go and select the dot video container and let's add some properties. I'll give it a position of absolute and let's also give it a top of 0, left of 0, and let's give it a width of 100%, so it covers the 100% width of the entire screen. Same with the height. We will give it an overflow of hidden so that if there's any extra portion of the video, it should hide itself, and we'll set the background to no repeat and also center. Okay, also let's apply a few properties to our video tag. So I'm going to say video and let's add minimum width. It should be 100% of the screen available. Same with the minimum height, 100% of the screen size available. Let's add a position absolute. Let's add top of 50%, left of 50%, and I'll give it a transform translate of -50 and -50. This is completely optional. Top left transform properties on the video tag. I've added it to give it some effect, and let's add object fit and let's say it should be cover. Okay, let's save and refresh, and there we go. We got a video covering up the entire screen. Now let's go back to our index file and add a container1 class right below the video container class. I'm not naming the class container because HTML will take the properties of the container class pre-specified by Bootstrap, since we have imported Bootstrap and I don't want to apply the properties. So let's keep it this way, and inside the container1, let's work on the transparent card. It's pretty easy to implement. If you go to Bootstrap and search for card, you'll find these nice looking cards, but we're not looking for the whole thing. We just want these borders and card properties assigned by Bootstrap. So all we have to do is use a div with a class card. Inside this card, I want a form, and I will use a class named card body. Again, you can find the details about it in the Bootstrap docs, but for now we are using it for the card properties. Now inside this card, I'm going to create a div with a class text center, and the property describes itself it will center the text inside it. So let's add an h2 inside with a class of text white. I also want it a bit more bold, so I'll use the strong tag and it should say login. And let's add an HR right below our h2, that's horizontal line, and we'll give it a class of text white as well. Okay, now let's add another div with a class of form group right below the card body div, and group, okay, dot form group. And this is another one of those bootstrap classes which has some properties, and you can find that in the bootstrap docs as well. Now, in our final result, as I told you, we have these small little icons we have to implement, which are on the side, right beside the labels and the inputs. So let's implement that now. To implement that, we'll use font awesome. So I'll go in font awesome. We go in the docs for web and go in the basic use section. We'll see that we can initialize it with an I tag, and you use a class name of FAS and FA dash the icon you want to use. So let's do this. I'll say I with a class of FAS. This initializes font awesome, and FA dash user, since this will be an icon for the username label, so I'll select FA dash user. Okay, now if you save and close this, and if you refresh in here, you'll see we have a card, and we also got our small little user icon, but it's not really where we want to place it. We want to place it in the center. So let's do that by adding properties to our section. So I'll go in the style sheet. Right below the video, I'll say section, and let's give it some properties. I'll give it a height of 100 view height. That's the entire desktop screen size. I'll give it a display of flex. I'll give it a justified content center and align items center. So let's save and refresh, and we got our card element at the center of the page where we want it to be. Let's also add another property of overflow, just in case if there is any, it should be hidden. And there you go. A card is implemented, it's at the center, and it's responsive as well. But a card still looks kinda ugly. We want it to be transparent, so let's implement that in our style sheet. We'll select dot card, and in that, let's give it a background color of RGBA 0, 0, 0 and 0.2. Let's save and refresh. There we go. We got our transparent card implemented as well, and now the login header is visible. Okay, let's go back to our index file, and if you notice, our font icon is still black in color and not clearly visible. So let's fix that with adding a class name of text white. Let's save and refresh, and we got our icon visible and white in color. Great. Now let's continue with adding the label. Say label, and we will give it a class of text white. The label will be for name, and it should read username. Okay, now let's add an input tag as well. We will give it a type of text, and let's give it an ID of name, name of name, and also we'll give it a class of form control, and we will declare it as required so user doesn't leave it empty. Let's save, and when we refresh, you can see our input and the label are in place, and our icon is right beside our label. Let's copy this div and use the same div for our password as well. We just have to change a few things, like we have to use another icon. For a password you can use either a key or a lock. Then I think I should go with the key icon. Let's change this for password. The label should read password. We will change the type to password as well. Same with the ID and name, and rest all stays the same. Now let's again save, refresh, and you can see we got both the fields, username field and password field as well. It looks good, but I think I need a bit more margin in between, so I'll add here margin top 2, same in here and here as well. Great. Let's save and refresh, and there we go. It looks a lot more cleaner now. Now I don't want my inputs to be like this white and blockish. I want them to be transparent, and I also want to add a small transition. So let me add them using my style sheet. I will select hashtag name. I'll grab the inputs by their IDs, name and password, and in that let me give it a background color of RGBA 0, 0, 0 and 0.4. I'll give it a color of white. I don't want any borders on my input, so border none. Same with the outline. I'll give it a height of 30 pixels. I'll also give it a box shadow of 0, 1 pixels, 0 and 0 with a color of white. I'll add a transition of height which lasts for a second, and I'll also add a WebKit transition. This is just to make sure that this transition of ours works in most of the browsers out there. Now let's also add the focus effect for the transition. So I'll say as name focus and password focus. That happens, I want to increase the height by 15 pixels, that's 45 pixels, and I'll give it a font size of 15 pixels. Let's just save and refresh. Great. We got our inputs. They are looking good, transparent, just like we wanted, and the animation is smooth. Let's go back to our index file and add a div for our button and the link for the registration form as well. So let's create a div with a class name text center. Inside this div, let me add a button tag, and I want some margin top in here. The button should read enter, and for the class name of this button, we can refer to the Bootstrap docs. So let me search for Bootstrap here, and in here let me search for button, and I like this blue one, so I'll just copy this class name button and button primary, and I'll paste it in here. I will also add a button large btn-lg, and I'll add a my-button class, which I will modify later in style sheet. Now also implementing a register link, so I'll use span. I'll give it a class of text white, some margin top, and a D block, which is a shorthand for display block in Bootstrap. This span now should read don't have an account question mark. Now we just want the register word to act as a link, so let's add an anchor tag which will href to our register.html, and it should say register. Let's save and refresh. We close this and refresh. There we go. We got our button and the link for the registration form as well. But I don't want it to be blue, so let me fix that by adding a class in the anchor tag, and I'll say the class should be text white, and refresh. There we go. We got our register word sorted as well. Now let's add some effects on our button as well. I don't like this boxy shape, so let's fix this in our style sheet. I'll say dot button. I'll give it a border radius of 20 pixels. Let's save and refresh. Great, we got a pill shaped button. Now I'll also add a cursor of pointer. Save and refresh. Great, we got a pointer button as well. Now let's add a hover effect on our button. So I'll say dot my button. When hovered, I want the background to change to RGBA 1, 1, 1 and 0.4. Great. I'll also add a background color of, you can select any one of these, but I think I'll go with cornflower blue. Okay, Let's save, and I'll also add an active effect. So when my button is active, it should have a position of relative, and it should move up by a pixel. So top of 1 pixel. Let's save, refresh, and great. We got our hover effect. We got our active effect in as well. Our beautiful looking form is almost completed. We just have to implement the register form now. So let's go back to our index HTML, copy everything in here and paste it in the register HTML. Great. Now let's modify a few things in here. First of all, let's change this login to say register. And in any registration form, we take three inputs, that is email, username and password. So for our email, I'll copy the same div that I used for the username. I'll paste it above the username div and I'll add some margin top to the username div. Okay. And I want the icon for my email to be an envelope. So we'll say envelope. Okay, great. Now I'll change this for email. This should say email as well. This will be type email, ID email, name email, and rest all stays the same in here. Let's do the same changes in our style sheet as well. So we'll grab email by ID and we want to apply the similar properties to the input. That's why we will add it there as well. Great. Now let's save and refresh. And now once we click on register, we will land on the register page with all our inputs and icons properly executed. The transitions are also working, the buttons also working well, but we just have to change one thing now. This don't, we have to change it to already. So let's go down here and change this with already. We will change the href here to index.html. And we'll say this login. Great, let's save and refresh. We got our changes all done. If you look at our form now, everything is working smoothly. The links are working just fine. The transitions are good. But when we view it on a bigger screen or desktop, we can see that the card element has less width and I probably want more width when I'm viewing it on desktop. So I can fix this with a media query. All we have to do is go in our style sheet and right below here I'll add @media for a minimum width of 800 pixels. I want to grab my container one class and I want to increase its width to 420 pixels. Let's save, and now when you refresh you'll see that the width of a card element is increased. So what this media query basically does is that whenever our screen size is more than 800 as we have defined it, it will increase the screen or the card width to 420 pixels, but whenever we go below 800 pixels, the card size will shrink to its original value. Great. Another thing we have to take care of is the screen size in a mobile phone. At this point, if you view a project on a desktop, test its responsiveness, you won't notice any problem. But when you open it on your phone, you might notice a bit of a vertical overflow. That is because we have set our section height to cover 100 view height. So let's fix that as well. So in our style sheet, I'll write another media query which gets activated when the width is below 500 pixels, because ideally our smartphones have width less than 500 pixels. And when that happens, I'll grab the section tag and reduce its height to cover 90 view height. Let's save and refresh, and there you go. Our project is completed with no issues as such and completely responsive on any device. Even if we go below 500 pixels here, you won't notice any overflow on desktop nor on a smartphone. Now, there's a lot more to add to this form, like remember me functionality, which you can add using a login cookie, but that's an entirely different topic. You can also add a forward password functionality, a brand name with a few links at the top, implement the database for it using PHP and MySQL. You get the idea. But as of now, in this video, we have successfully implemented a login and a registration form with a cool interactive design and a video background. Overall, it looks a bit more professional and interactive. So with this, I take your leave. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more interesting videos just like this one. And do comment what other topics and ideas you would like to learn, and we'll try to make a video on it as well. Thank you and bye bye.
Your dream tech career at a top product company is just a step away. Visit prograd.org, check out our latest tech programs and kickstart your dream career in tech.